Hi everyone, welcome back. So last time we talked about how to set up your gradebook and how to grade things. And this time we're going to talk specifically about how to create and use a rubric. So what I'm going to do first is jump into our sample course here, and we'll see again how to access those assignments. So we just click on the course we want. We go up to assignments or discussions if you have rubric for discussions. Now, I mentioned before you can see everybody's entries if you click right there on the assignment link, but really we're just going to look here at the new submissions. So there's 2 new that have not yet been graded. Over here to the right is the rubric. I think, in this one I noticed they don't have a long explanation for the various categories, and they also have auto-populated the comments. So I am going to show you on here how to work with it and adjust it when you're in the rubric itself, and then I'm going to click over to a current course that I have, and without the student information on it, we will look at what the rubric looks like in real life. So the first thing is, I love this little slidey bar. You're going to click to open the assignment. Again, if the student has multiple submissions, it'll say like submission 2, submission 1, etc. So you can move this bar if you want to see the rubric a little bit larger, and you click the arrow to expand the rubric. So what I do like about this is that there are a couple different ways to look at it. You can look at it here in line. This actually didn't used to be a feature of Brightspace, and it's something that they've just added, so I think it's really nice. And this is a 3-point rubric. You'll notice here satisfactory, and then they have kind of a short explanation. This person used 4 of the 6, so they're going to get this middle thing checked. Organization is here. Again, a little bit of that explanation, and then format, good formatting, and then again down here the overall score. You don't want to touch this because what I've noticed is I've clicked it sometimes by mistake, and it's really difficult to clear the override. Sometimes I have to go back up into the rubric and fix it all over again. But basically, in each of these, the feedback, you can have a comment bank where you copy and paste things in, or you can make it personal for the student, or you can do a combination of both. So here, I'm going to add, I liked the header that you used. It made things easy to read. And each of these is set up exactly like those announcements we looked at before, where you can insert stuff, you can bullet point, you can, if you click this, bold, underlined, italic, whatever the case may be. I don't like to put too many things in here because when the students see the rubric, if there's too much, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But down here, there's overall feedback, and here's where I might insert, like here, I recommend this, you watch this video, or here's a link where you can find further information, and I think that that would help you. Sometimes I link things like tutoring or support services, things like the Writing Center. That's always helpful, and sometimes I link like a video to a lecture that I have, or whatever the case may be. So you can type whatever you like in here, basically. Great job with formatting. Make sure for next time you cover all 6 items, whatever. And then let's say I want a link in here. So I'm going to say I want them to watch this video, and I'm going to go insert stuff. Click on YouTube the same way we did with those announcements. Search, there it is. Next, and insert. It's pretty big. Shows up pretty big. But going up to the rubric, It's, as I said, you can see it here in line. Total score is at the top and at the bottom. So that's something nice to make sure that you're double checking that you have that score checked. If you forget to do one of the rubric categories, it will not let you publish without reminding you, hey, you didn't fill out all the rubric categories, so your student might have a lower grade than they should. The other way that you can see the rubric is this little button right here pops it out into a larger screen. So if you have something where you have like a 5-point rubric, or you have a number of criteria that you're looking at, it can also help for you to have like the explanation for each of those categories in front of you in a little bit of a larger format, a larger way. And also, in this form of the rubric, there's no override. So I think what I typically do is I pop it out, and then you can either toggle back and forth, or you can kind of move it over while you're looking at the student's assignment. So it's a really nice feature. I'm going to up the grade a little bit there. So when you're done, you just click publish. Or you can click Save Draft, and then you can publish everybody's grades at the same time by going through and clicking Publish, Publish, Publish. When you do publish, it'll say Publishing. If you need to change anything in that rubric, I'm going to go in here and change things. It didn't, but in my real class, there's a little bubble that comes up that says that students can see changes automatically, and it asks you to retract the grade that you've given before doing the update. Now, the retraction doesn't mean it erases everything here, just to kind of clarify that, because I thought at first that it did. But basically, it just means, there we go, discard and retract. So I'm retracting any changes that I've made, and then I can go through and regrade. What's helpful for this feature is if a student submits something, maybe they plagiarize and you give them a chance to redo it, or if they submitted like the wrong version of whatever they wanted to give you, or you give them a chance to revise, whatever the case may be, you can retract your previous grade. Just takes it out of the grade book until you grade everything again. So once you do that, you click publish, and then you have to click to the next person in sequence. So that's basically how that works. I'm going to retract this again because I want this marked as not graded in our little sandbox playroom area. But I just want to show you real quick what the rubric looks like in real life without that stuff populated. So here is a rubric for a student where their name has been taken off. You can see that there's a little bit more explanation for each one of these criteria. This is a place where I was able to type quite a bit of feedback for the student. I kind of use a combination of comment bank and then also personalizing things. There are also some places where I didn't choose to add feedback. These are places the student didn't really need to work on, and also again, you know, they can see this entire rubric as I'm showing it to you here. So if you have a really long like paragraph explanation for every single criteria, it does become overwhelming to them. So I kind of recommend that you pick like 2 or 3 places that you really want them to focus. Okay, so back in our sandbox class, I'm going to go to assignments. Just to get back to this kind of page. So how do you make a rubric? Well, it's pretty easy. It's up here in course tools. And actually, I'm going to do this in the blank space that they gave us instead of, so this is our empty course shell. I think it'll just be a little bit easier here. So I'm going to go over here to course tools. I'm going to click rubrics. And you can see that there's some that they have created that are locked. There's a couple that we can play around with, and then this one is one I was working on, untitled. So I'm going to create a new rubric by clicking New Rubric. You can also search through your rubrics to edit them or to do things like here, I'll click this button, preview it. You can view statistics, you can copy it. This one won't let me delete it, but you can delete some of your rubrics as well. So when you create a new rubric, there's basically two different types. The first type is analytic, which you can see here. Meaning the ones that we just looked at were analytic rubrics. They have multiple criterion and they have various levels for those criterion. The second type is holistic. This is something that I use for discussion forums. So if I have discussion forum rubric, I'll name this as we're playing along here. And basically, I'm going to add another level. There we go. Level 5. So the reason that I use holistic rubrics for discussion forums, because basically I'm looking at the same thing each time. And my criteria are pretty clear. There are not 3 or 4 separate things I'm looking for in those discussion forums. Okay, so I've just copied and pasted from my current discussion rubric into here. You'll notice that once I do that, the boxes become a little bit bigger. And then here, there's percentages. Now, you can change that to have no score, but you can also mess around with the percentages as well. That is just the rubric percentages. If you have a points-based class, it just gives the students that percentage of the points. So if I had this as like 10 points and they got a level 3, they'd get 5 points out of 10, right? So here you can also change the names of this. So if you want this to be like excellent, or exceeds, meets, approaches, does not meet, and maybe no attempt made. Maybe I'll name them that. I don't love that, but for our purposes, that's what I'll use at the moment. You could also just, if you had more points here, you could do A, B, C, D, etc. It's just something for you to click for the students to see. So basically, yeah, you can copy and paste. There we go. You can copy and paste here into the rubric, or you can change things as well, or you can just type. However, you were missing one of your responses. That's you-centered language. So again, I probably wouldn't do that, but something like that would be in there. So basically, once you get all of these set up, ta-da, the magic of editing. So this has all been filled out with various explanation for criteria. And now we are going to go to our options. Rubric visibility. I always keep it visible to students so that they know why they got the grade that they got. You can hide it from them until the feedback is published. You can hide the rubric from the students, and you can hide their scores. I don't necessarily know why you would want to do this, but you can. The description here, as it says, is for your personal reference. So if you want, like I use this for discussion forums for my 102 class or whatever the case may be. And then we're going to scroll up to double check that it's been saved. The status is published. You can also mark it as draft if you don't have time to do the whole thing. And then we're going to close that up, and it'll save our holistic rubric. So you can scan down. These are in alphabetical order, and you can see that my discussion forum rubric is right there. We're going to then, I won't walk you through the whole thing, but I'm going to create another rubric. And this time I'm going to use an analytic with multiple criterion. So I'll take a second and fill some of those in. Okay, so here I've changed, I kept this as scoring points as opposed to percentages. And just for our purposes, just to show you different types. And here I've got A, B, C, D, and F. Now, another thing that I want to show you on here I didn't fill out the other criterion. If you want to add a criterion, you can do that by adding criterion right there. So let's say that I want something specifically about MLA citation and formatting. Let's just say that's my criteria. So we have, for an analytical rubric, it works a tiny bit differently, because we have the scoring points. Now the points up here, the way that it's structured right now, all of our criteria have the same number of points. So they're getting the same number of points for thesis as they are for support or for MLA formatting or for organization, as you see here. I can change that to custom points. So custom points takes those points and it puts them at the head of every category. So if I wanted here, let's say 10, 8, 6, and 4, and then let's say for the thesis statement, I want half that, 5, 4, 3, and 2. So you can play with those points. So however many points, if you have a rubric for a specific assignment, where maybe your assignment is worth 30 points and that's spread out between 5 categories evenly, or if it's worth 30 points but 2 of your categories are worth like 5 points and the other one is worth 20. You can do that too. So it's really customizable. You can reverse the level order, so you can go from low to high if you want. I don't recommend doing that because, the default setting is the one that students are probably going to see the most. So just kind of be aware of that. Here, you can copy a row if you have like same amount of points, but called something different. You can add criteria. You can add a new level before this, or you can add a new level after it. So if you wanted like A-, B+, C+, C-, all of that, you could add that in there as well. So adding levels is up here. Adding criteria, you can either copy or you can go down to the bottom and add criterion. We also have the overall score, so it's showing you right now how much you would get if you had level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1, etc. So then we have those options again. Make it visible to students, or you can hide it from them, or you can hide until feedback is published. Just checking that it's saved. And if you wanted to make this a draft, like, this isn't completely finished, so I could make that a draft and then finish it up later. But I'm going to call this assignment, I'll name it something weird, 17 rubric. And it's saving, and it's saved. I like that it does that for you automatically, but you do need to check it, and then we can close. So now I have 2 rubrics. I have a holistic rubric and I have an analytical rubric. How do I connect those to an assignment or a discussion forum? Well, it's pretty easy. I'm going to go in here and create an assignment. To do that, I'm going to click New Assignment. And this is going to be my assignment 17. Graded out of, let's say, 50 points. It will be in the grade book, yes, and then I would have my instructions here. So I've got something from another assignment, and if you notice, this is the nice thing about Brightspace. Everything is really set up the same way. So the assignments here look exactly like the announcements, and the email looks very similar as well. So I'm going to paste my directions, and then I'm going to make this a little bit more, there we go, a little bit more accessible by adding some headings. So prompt will be right there, and then here I have an outline. And if I wanted a picture or something, I could include that as well. And it might be helpful to actually have the outline outlined. There we go. Again, for accessibility purposes, that can really help. Now, if I'm going too quickly, that's fine. There's another video about assignments and discussion forums specifically. But basically, over here, you have evaluation and feedback, and we are going to add a rubric. You can create a new rubric here as well. I think it's easier by just using that rubric tool. But if you wanted to create a new one, you could. Here, I'm going to add existing. And I'm going to go, there we go, assignment 17 and add selected. So the one thing I forgot to show you, I'll go back, sorry about that. There is a way to auto-populate some of those comments in the rubric, but you'll notice here are my things, organization, A, B, C, and D, my full explanation for that particular criteria and that level are both there. So even before I add comments, students can already see in some sense why they got the grade that they got. So it can be really, really helpful. So it just lets you kind of preview it again. Annotation, make sure that they're available for assessment. That means that you can do annotations, and then also you can hide students' names during assessment if you want. So if you want anonymous marking, you can do that as well. So once you've done all of that, and just in terms of the rubric, you save and close. There's a lot of other options, but I don't want to cover all of those right now. So now in my assignments, you can see nobody's submitted it yet, nobody's completed it, but it is in there. And if I click on the assignment, I can edit the assignment if I want. And I could have added a different rubric when I do that. So it brings us back here, and you can change the rubric, add a different rubric, whatever the case may be. So that's how you add a rubric in an assignment. You can also add a rubric in a discussion. So here, I've started one already. I'm going to edit this. When I click to edit this test, it comes up a little bit differently than the assignment. So here, because it's a discussion forum, maybe you don't want to grade it. Well, the description and everything is right here, and you can edit that. But again, I'm going to talk about that in next time's video. But here, for the rubric, we are going to go into assessment, choose an item to grade. This is the journal that I've set up already for them. You have to do that separately, but again, I'll go into that later. How many scores? What's their score going to be? It's going to be out of 10 points, and then I add my rubric. So here I have, this is where that description comes in really handy because you might not remember which one you wanted to use. It's the discussion rubric that I have created before, and I'm going to add selected, and it pops up right there. Again, it lets you edit it, and I'm going to do that right now. Okay, now that I'm looking at it, it looks like this holistic rubric does not have comments pop up automatically, but I will show you in just a second how to do that. But I could edit this if I want. If I wanted, you know, the letter here instead of this, this kind of jumps quite a bit, so I probably wouldn't do this in real life, but there we go. I really probably would have maybe another one, or I'd change the percentages. But for our purposes today, let's make sure it's saved. Yep. Okay, and we're going to close. So that edits the rubric, but it also attaches it to that discussion. Okay, so it looks like we have to kind of go through these steps again because I changed that rubric. Well, that's good to know. We're all learning today. All right, there we go. And I'm going to do that. Allow assessment of posts. And then you just save and close. So now the rubric is attached to that discussion forum, and you'll see it has a little thing here and it says includes assessment. So What this looks like when all your discussion forums are set up is basically, I'm going to come in here to our test class. Some of your discussions, like if you have an introduction or a welcome board or an open class discussion where students can ask you questions, you might not want to assess those topics. So you can leave the rubric off and not check to assess things. Here, this is a poem draft, so you can see it includes an assessment, and you can click to go into that discussion forum, or you can click the little arrow to assess the topic. And once you do that, a little bit similar to the assignments, here we're seeing everybody's thing individually. You can see here that looks like they've all been scored. I don't know why the assignments don't show the ones that are scored, but they just don't. But the discussions do. So I'm going to click in here to the sample student just to show you again what this rubric looks like. So we looked at the analytical rubric. Here, this is the holistic rubric. You can see there's just one category, and they're getting a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1. And that's it. Once they're graded, you make sure that the score here matches the score that you want to give, and it should be in here also. You can add overall feedback, and then you can press update. So that's basically it. The one thing that I forgot to show you about the analytic rubric, I'm going to go back into that assignment that I created. Actually, I'll go into course tools and to rubrics. And there's my assignment 17, and I'm going to edit. So here's the thing that I forgot to show you. You can type initial feedback into each of these boxes. When you do that, basically it'll auto-populate. So we just saw here, sorry. This is that poetry assignment. You can see when I click for fake student Christy here, when I click the rubric boxes for the different levels, it auto-populates feedback. So if you want to save yourself a little bit of time, you can definitely do that. So here we're looking at organization. I could put this paper was well organized. Great use of transitions. And then here, maybe I would have something like, whoops. I might, sometimes I do this. The paper was a bit difficult to follow, for example. And then I might fill that in when I'm actually talking to the student. So it gives me just a little bit of something to work with, and then I can also personalize it. So yeah, that's a really nice feature, and I forgot about it because they've only just added that in pretty recently, where you can auto-populate some of your comments, and then you can go back in and personalize them, but it saves you quite a bit of typing. So basically, that's how to create a rubric. Just to kind of recap, you can access rubrics either in the assignments or the discussion forums themselves. If you edit them, though, it will take you back to this rubric page. You can also edit and create new rubrics in that course tools using the rubric function. When you create a new rubric, you can make a holistic rubric where there's just one criterion and various levels for students. Or you can make an analytic rubric with several criterion as well as several levels. You can change the number of points in an analytic rubric to have points for each category be different, or you can use the same number of points for all of those criteria. And you can assign a rubric to an assignment or a discussion forum when you are creating the assignment or the discussion forum. So that's it. I hope that this helped learn how to create and use rubrics in Brightspace. Next time, we'll look at those assignments and discussions in a little bit more detail and talk about how to access some of those features. Thanks, everyone.